Hello, and welcome to the podcast formerly known as Scream Girls. We're beginning this episode with a difficult but necessary announcement. Thanks to this week's film of choice, we have decided we will no longer discuss or even watch horror movies.
Starting next week, our podcast will concern itself primarily with the rating and reviewing of sewing patterns and will henceforth be known as Seam Girls.
Thank you for giving us space during this difficult time. Psych!
We'll never stop. We love pain and torturing ourselves.
Yeah.
We're sick fucks. Literally sick fucks, as you can tell by my voice. My sexy, sultry, sick voice.
Sicky.
Coming at ya. Guys, it's the summer and I'm sick and I think it's bullshit. I think, where did the germs come from? How did they get here? Why am I being punished? Is it not enough that I saw fucking Hereditary this week? I had to get, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a karmic punishment.
Your body was like, goodbye.
Yeah, like, bitch, you're staying home. Next time you're staying home.
It was like, think about removing your own head. Why don't you?
Oh, spoiler alert. How are you,
gosh.
Callie? You're healthy for now.
Yeah, I'm good. I had let me tell you, we are really committed to horror movies because let me just tell you about the experience I had trying to see Hereditary.
Okay.
So, you guys know Tom Sabrito, friend of the podcast. He and I went to see this movie on Tuesday night. We get to AMC. Turns out AMC has $5 Tuesdays. Who knew? If you're a Stubbs member, you get in for $5. So it was banging. It was jam-packed. And we went to pick our seats. It was assigned seats. There are only seats left in the very front row of the movie theater.
Oh, hell no.
I was already fucking terrified to see this movie. So I was like, we're literally going to watch this movie from the front row. I don't know if I can handle it. But we booked the seats. We get in line for concessions because I was like, I need a popcorn. I need a slushie. I need distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I didn't eat lunch so that I can have those treats.
Callie, that's not a good way.
And we get in line at concessions. It is jammed. People are getting their concessions.
Too?
I don't know what the fuck it was, but I was losing my mind. I was hangry. Luckily, Tom and I are dear friends, so he could see the true me, which was basically like a character from a horror movie. Like, I was like, why is it taking so long?
You went full Tony Collette?
Yeah, full. I was like, ah! So finally, I got my stuff. We go in. We are nose to nose with the screen. Like, it's the closest seats I've ever seen to a movie theater screen. It was ridiculous.
I wonder if it even would have been scary in that situation because you can't even hardly fucking see what's happening.
So we sat there for the first 10 minutes of the movie. I couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
And I was getting like barfy because I was like, it's too close. I can't see. So we left. We hop in a cab. We go to the nearest movie theater. Sold out. So the next day,
sold out at another movie theater, also an AMC?
Yes, I guess this prestige horror movie is, people are loving it. Not an AMC, Sinopolis.
But it's a Tuesday night. I'm surprised because I saw it on Sunday at Alamo Drafthouse, which is like a way more, hip and trendy spot.
Is that where they bring the food to your seat?
Uh-huh.
What'd you get?
I didn't order any food because I didn't want to eat during it. I had the opposite reaction to
opportunity.
You. Well, I thought about getting a milkshake, but I don't know. I was just like, my friend that I went with was like, you want to be sucking down some milky treats while a little girl cuts a pigeon's head off with scissors? And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be doing that.
Dare your friend say this to you? I want to be sucking down a milky treat at any given moment.
He didn't say it specifically to me. He was sort of saying it generally about, like, he thinks it's weird when people order food during movies like that. And I was like, you know what? I can see that. But I did eat a piece of pizza after the movie. Like, I went to, like, a dollar slice situation, and I started to feel sick, and I was like, is the pizza bad? And I was like, no, I think the movie has poisoned my gut. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, so I ended up having to go the next night. Tom wasn't available. I don't know a whole lot of people who like scary movies. You, my beloved, were sick and had already seen it.
I was not seeing it
so
again.
I went alone. For the very first time in my life, I went to the movie theater by myself. I mean, I felt like a grown-ass woman, to be honest. And not that you asked, but I felt like a grown-ass woman. I felt independent. And
absolutely.
I wasn't probably any more scared than I would be if I had been there with someone else.
I think it's This is a particularly alienating film.
Yeah.
You're sort of just alone inside yourself no matter who is around you.
Yeah. And it also meant that I had 2 slushies in 48 hours.
That's really what it means to be a grown-ass woman. You can have as many slushies as you want,
Yeah, you want to be sucking down some slushie while a girl cuts a pigeon's head off? Yes.
I think a slushie would have been better than a milkshake.
Yeah, okay.
In that situation.
Well, I know how you feel about milk.
Yeah, I'm not a milk person. I don't know.
So anyway, that was the commitment, and now we have to talk about it.
We have to talk about this movie.
This is a long-ass movie, so I feel like we should just dive right in.
We should. And it's like, basically, so y'all know, we sat here before beginning this for 20 minutes trying to, like, map out the plot so we don't get lost. We've never had to do that with a movie before, even ones we've seen in theaters. Watching the movie was like, I don't know how to talk about this. It's not a story. It is a story. There is a sequence of events that occurs, but it feels like just a deluge of bad feelings and horrific ideas.
Yeah.
It just is all that's happening.
Yeah.
It's not easy to talk about structurally. It's like a mood piece.
And I think Wikipedia would agree with you because this plot description is bullshit. It's missing
wanted.
so many things.
Wikipedia, how dare you?
I mean, there are like several standout plot moments that you will literally never forget no matter how hard you try. But the rest, you're right, is all just sort of like, like bad. That was my bad feelings.
You needed the face. But yeah, it was like, it's a shudder-inducing.
Yeah.
Listen, I will take this moment to say, obviously we always give spoiler alerts, especially for movies we've seen in the theaters. I would say if you're not hardcore, I'm not going to recommend that you see it. That's not a value judgment on the movie. We'll get to ratings, but it's not an easy watch. So if you are even a little bit considering just, spoiling it for yourself and not going to see it, like, go ahead.
If you think Veronica is the scariest movie out there, don't see Hereditary.
All right, well, let's dive in. Hereditary. How does this movie begin?
With an obituary, which I hadn't seen before.
No, it's kind of Star Wars style. It just, like, put up all the info you need.
By the way, when I was watching it from the very front row, my eyes were, like, going cross-eyed.
Oh, sure.
I couldn't see it at all. I kept looking at Tom. Tom kept being like, do you want to leave? Do you want to leave? And I was like, I want to see this so badly, Tom. Let's just stay. And then that obituary came on and I was like, I can't read it. But anyway, it's an obituary. Ellen is dead.
Ellen's an old lady. It's a very benign obituary. Nothing scary about it except for the dark fucking soundscape happening behind it.
Yep. And then we get the opening shot, which is we are inside of first we're looking out the window at a tree house. Then we are inside of what looks like a workroom, and there's tiny things around, tiny miniatures. And then we go to the camera stops on a dollhouse looking thing, a miniature.
Yes.
And we zoom into it, and it's a bedroom. It's kind of a teen bedroom. We zoom in, and knock on the door. The dad enters the door, and basically we are in the life-size scene. So it's like a scene. We have gone inside the dollhouse, basically.
Yeah.
And this sort of prevails throughout the whole thing because I felt like a lot of the shots were actually a miniature, and then they would switch to a life-size thing because like there would be scenes where they were showing an empty room and I was like, that looks like a miniature set, but then all of a sudden someone would like walk into it.
Yeah,
so
they're fucking with your perspective for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what do you think that means? That like,
well, we'll get into it more, but I think this movie is so much about dysfunctional families and the dysfunction that we pass on to our children and that we inherit from our parents, dysfunction or illness or and it's very much, I mean, you'll see how, like, this family on the surface looks like a fairly normal sort of family. And then as you get in, you just peel back the layers of fucked upness. And the mom, Toni Collette, is an artist who works with miniatures, and she's creating these miniatures the whole time. So it's this idea of, like, a facsimile of a home, Callie, of a family, of, like, a perfect home. But actually it's, this monstrous thing. I think that's what it is. But do we need to be so on the nose with it? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
I don't know.
But, the miniatures will come back.
Yeah. So we see the dad basically walks into the room. He says, Peter, get up. Here's your suit. And we learn that they're going to the funeral of the woman whose obituary we just read, Grandma.
The dad, by the way, is Gabriel Byrne, who is looking pretty old, but I still find him very sexy. So that was nice to see. he's waking up all the kids. The little girl, she's 13. They have a 13-year-old daughter, Charlie. And she has slept in the treehouse, and her dad's yelling at her because it's cold and she shouldn't be sleeping up there. And she sort of responds in a weird way.
Yeah, he says,
odd.
you could get pneumonia. And she said, it's okay.
Right. We'll talk about the oddness of Charlie, but right off the bat.
Well, at the funeral, Annie gives a very odd eulogy about her mother. She says her mother was a very private person. She had private rituals, private anxieties, that she wouldn't even want Annie talking about her. And she also says it's nice to see so many strange faces here. So we're led to believe Annie doesn't really recognize anyone at her mother's funeral.
She's surprised that her mother had any friends, and she's like, my mom would be suspicious to see so many people here. It's a fucked up eulogy that Toni Collette gives.
Yes.
It's like she clearly had a bad relation with her mom.
Yes.
Oh, an important thing that we learn here is that the little girl, Charlie, is allergic to nuts because she starts eating a chocolate bar. The little girl, again, Charlie, is behaving very oddly throughout the funeral. She's making this clicking sound. She's drawing fucked up drawings that look like a 5-year-old would draw them, but she's 13. She's also dressed in a fairly form-fitting dress, and you can see that her body is sort of beginning to develop. So I just took note right away of this weird juxtaposition of this very odd youthful behavior and, the age that she actually is. She's just not acting in a way that a kid her age would act. But nobody is really acting that way, the way that they should act, because nobody's sad. Normal. Nobody's like... they were all late to this fucking funeral. They were just sort of like, okay, bye, Grandma.
Yeah. Well, at the funeral as well, before she starts chomping into that chocolate bar, Charlie sees, first of all, a very strange smiley man standing near the casket.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Then she sees a woman run her fingers over top of her grandmother's lip, but she doesn't touch them. It's like she does a little gesture over them, and she also takes note of we also see the necklace that her grandma's wearing, and Annie is wearing one as too.
Yes, it's a symbol, pendant. Some kind of symbol.
A symbol. So
they go home, and that night, everybody's going to bed. Toni has a conversation with Charlie, and Charlie's kind of sad, and Tony's saying, you were grandma's favorite. When you were born, she wouldn't even let me feed you. She had to feed you. And Charlie just says she wanted me to be a boy, which will come back later.
Charlie also says, who's going to take care of me when you die? So, like, premonitions, or she seems to know something, this Charlie.
Well, yeah, she definitely knows something's up.
I mean, I just thought that was a very strange. You would say, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die anytime soon. Don't worry about it.
I mean, it's all very weird.
It's just very weird.
The premonition of it, it's ominous. The daughter, I will just say right now, is the most upsettingly creepy child I've ever seen in a film. No one could love her. So it's my opinion, because the way that she acts is insane. She's so scary.
I kind of loved her. She likes chocolate.
She chops a pigeon's head off with a pair of Fiskars scissors.
Well, she wanted to make something.
People can love her. I'm sure her mother clearly loves her. Her family loves her. But I was just like almost angry at how creepy I found her.
Oh, I was just like, help her. I don't know. It was weird. We'll get to it. But when they force her to go to the party, I mean, that's coming up pretty soon. So let's get there. For sure. So they learn that Ellen, the grandma's grave, has been vandalized. That's all we really learn. It's been vandalized in some way.
Yeah, and Toni Collette is not informed of this. Somebody calls Gabriel Byrne and tells him, and he keeps it from Toni because he doesn't want to worry her.
Yep. Even before that, I guess, at night after talking to the little girl, she sees her mother, Annie sees her mother in her workshop. She sees an apparition of her mother.
Yes.
But then she turns the light on.
And she finds a note in a book of her mother's that says, "My beautiful daughter, try not to despair over the losses to come. It will all be worth it in the end." Something like that.
Yes. So Gabriel Byrne finds out about the grave being vandalized. Yeah. Toni Collette does not know. She's putting on her jacket. She says, I'm going to go to the movies. Yes. She actually goes to a support group for people who have just lost a loved one. She speaks at the support group, and we learn a lot, and she really shares for it being her first visit.
Oh, yes.
And I don't remember everything, but we basically learned that there's a long line of mental illness in her family. Her brother was schizophrenic. Her father killed himself.
He was a psychotic, depressive who starved himself to death.
Right.
The brother, though, interestingly, he was schizophrenic and killed himself, and he left a suicide note for their mother saying she was putting people inside of him.
Oh.
So we'll get to it, but I don't know that that was the correct diagnosis for him.
Whoa.
Yeah. And she kind of has a breakdown. She's like, I just don't want to put any stress on my family with my feelings, and I don't think that she doesn't feel like support. Exactly. She doesn't feel support at home. Which is weird because Gabriel Byrne is like the most loving and stable dad ever, it seems like.
Yeah.
Her kids don't give a fuck. I mean, Charlie is, she's got her own troubles. But Peter doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, Peter's a pothead. So Charlie the next day is not taking a quiz in school. She's working on some contraption, and a bird flies and hits the window.
Yeah.
And dies. Charlie goes out, cuts the head off the bird.
With Fiskars scissors.
Is this also the moment where the woman, yeah, I think it is, from across the street is like waving at her?
Yes.
Loved it. It
so
kind
creepy.
of reminded me. Have you ever seen The Witches?
Not in many, many years. The Roald Dahl Witches?
Yes.
Not in a long time.
Also is extremely scary.
Yeah, I don't think that should be a children's movie.
No, definitely not. But there's a scene at the beginning that used to scare me so much where the little boy is up in a treehouse and a witch comes by. He knows it's a witch because she has purple eyes. And she goes, "Would you come down and have some chocolate?" And he's like, "Grandma!" And he's yelling for her grandma. And she goes, "She can't hear you." And then finally the grandma comes out and is like, "Luke, Luke," and the witch walks away. But it was just this creepy thing of a woman being like, "Hello." Like, it just looked like a
literally
witch.
Like the witch with the gingerbread house,
Yeah. So right away, I didn't get this from the trailer, but right away we're getting witchy vibes. There's witchy things happening.
It's witchy up in here.
It's witchy.
Including chopping off the head of a fucking pigeon.
And then she like puts it in her oversized hoodie.
Yeah, she puts it in the...
But also, like, I'm sorry, make your kid wear something else.
I know. Well,
I don't know.
They don't want to stifle her, I guess.
They force her to go to a party, which is what happens next.
Well, because they want her to... Yeah, okay.
Okay, she's 13.
Yeah.
And Peter wants to go to a party.
Yeah, she's way too young to be going to this
way
party.
too
Even
young.
if she were fully, on a level with her peers in terms of her social skills.
He says they're going to a school barbecue, but bullshit. Toni Collette knows he's going to a party.
Yeah.
And she's asked if they're going to be drinking there. And then she says, "You can go, but you have to bring your sister." And Charlie doesn't want to go, and she's wearing that hideous sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And
Charlie's in the treehouse making some kind of, trying to tie the pigeon head to a little robot that she has made, wandering through the field, seeing hallucinations of her grandma. Or is it a hallucination?
I don't know.
Is it her grandma? I think it is.
It was somebody.
It's an old lady. She's seen old
like
ladies in the field. She says, "I want grandma." Tony's like, "No, you have to go." I was interesting when Peter was asking permission to go. The conversation was entirely in questions. Oh. They were so not communicating with one another. They were just asking each other. He would be like, "Well, are you gonna drink?" And he's like, "Do you think I would drink?" And she's like, "Does your sister want to go?" And he goes, "I don't know. Does she want to go?" And he's like, "Well, have you asked her?" They're just not talking at all.
I love that. That's such a perfect teen mom move, though. That's a very accurate depiction
Passive
of
aggressive, on your guard.
Well, are you going to be drinking? Do I look like I'd be drinking? Mm-hmm. Have I ever been drunk before? I don't know. Have you ever been drunk before? Yeah. Love that.
But yeah, he takes Charlie because there's this girl he wants to mac on.
Yeah.
Poor Charlie. Okay, I am feeling kind of bad for Charlie because she's miserable at this party. She doesn't want to be there.
Oh,
it's really sad.
That part's so sad when he wants to go smoke pot in the other room and he's like, "Stay out here, eat some cake," and she's like, "I don't know anybody here."
Yeah, and he's like, "It's fine, just go stand there and they'll give you a piece." Unfortunately, we, the audience, have seen a bunch of walnuts getting chopped to fuck to go into that cake. So he's macking on this girl. He goes in this other room with her to smoke pot. Charlie eats some cake.
Also, I was like, once you bite into a cake with nuts, you're like, "That's some nuts."
Yeah. Well, she's not capable of taking care of herself. Yeah. She doesn't even recognize what is happening to her. If this girl is so deathly allergic to nuts, first of all, I do blame the parents for not having the EpiPen, not having trained both of the kids. You always have the EpiPen with you. Even at the funeral, she's eating a candy bar. Her dad's like, "Does that have nuts in it?" I'm like, shouldn't you know if it has nuts in it? Shouldn't you be monitoring?
Yeah, where's she getting all this chocolate? I'd like to know.
She's 13, she's not going out.
She's always eating candy. Even when she was trying to attach the bird to the robot, she was popping Skittles in her mouth.
And it's where'd you get it? And also, if your kid is really allergic to nuts, I mean, that's a big deal nowadays. They don't even let, if one kid is allergic to nuts in the whole classroom. The whole, it's
totally.
The whole thing is sterilized. It's you got your EpiPen with you all the time.
I went to a high school recently where in the library they had a table that had signs on it that said, "No peanut table."
So she
starts to go into anaphylactic shock.
It's really scary. It's really upsetting because it's a slow process. It's not like she eats it and then she's like,
Yeah.
It's like she eats it. She starts sort of like rubbing at her throat. She gets herself a glass of tap water. Finally, she goes in the room. I can't believe we're here already. I'm not ready. She goes in the room and she's like, Peter, it's hard to breathe. And he's like, what do you mean? He knows exactly what is happening right away. And she's like, my throat feels like it's getting big. Cut to, he's carrying her. This was so sad. He's carrying her to the car, puts her in the car.
I'm gonna cry.
Guys, I can't even like, when I tell you from this moment for the next 6 minutes of the film, I was physically shaking. Like, I've never been more upset by a scene in a movie.
Do you want to, like, stop talking about this and talk about, like, 101 Dalmatians?
Well, we have to get cracking on our sewing podcast.
Yeah.
So he puts her in the car. He's speeding down the highway.
This part is so disturbing. She's like, I mean, it's basically, I guess, the feeling of drowning, but not in water. Like, she's like grasping, like kicking her legs, like grasping for anything because she can't breathe.
Clawing at her throat. Yeah. He's like, we're almost there. We're almost at the hospital. It doesn't look like they're almost at the hospital. He's going 100
miles per hour. Yeah. She rolls down the window. She sticks her head out the window for air, which I was like, no, baby, no. I thought she was going to just topple out. But I was like, no, baby, no.
It's worse.
He's going 100 miles per hour. He swerves to miss something in the road.
A dead deer in the middle of the road.
Deer. He swerved by a telephone pole or, you know, an electrical pole, and Charlie gets decapitated.
I have a question for you now. Do you see that? Because I was not looking at the screen at this moment.
I mean, you don't see it, but you see, like, right the moment before, and you hear, like whack, and then...
Okay. So, yeah, you hear whack.
And then, I think probably even more disturbing than the whack itself, or, like, the fact
way more disturbing,
is that he sits there, he's... You know, Peter, he's in shock.
Yeah,
First
absolutely.
Of all,
he stops the
car.
He's
stoned as fuck, which, like, can you fucking imagine?
They were doing bong rips right before this.
So he's stoned, he's sitting there, and he can't bring himself to look in the rearview mirror because he knows what has happened.
Yes.
And he tries, he's crying, and he just finally then, after probably a minute or two, goes, okay. And then just starts slowly driving again.
I would say it's 30 to 60 seconds just on his face. It's
I thought it was
time.
Really effective.
Yeah.
Like, terrifying.
This is the worst and best part of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he starts slowly driving, and then he pulls up into the driveway, and I was like, oh my God, no way. He is not going to just go home and just do nothing. And that's exactly what he does. I mean, he's in shock. He's basically like a zombie. He walks into his bedroom, lays down on the bed, and then kind of time passes and he's just laying there.
His eyes never shut.
You hear Toni Collette wake up. She says, I'm going to go get some supplies. You need anything? Gabriel Byrne says, no, I don't. You hear her go out the front door. And then you hear the most realistic screams of what you would hear if you discovered a decapitated body of your daughter
in your car, in your driveway on a Saturday morning.
I can't begin to process this.
Callie was trying to go to sleep the other night, and I started. You were gonna say
during this part of
no,
the movie.
Yeah, I just was like,
just sleep.
Yeah, I was like Peter. I was just like, I'm just gonna go catatonic fully. No, I was trying to go to sleep the other night, and I kept. When I closed my eyes, what I saw was his face and heard Toni Collette's screaming. I couldn't get it out of my head.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was trembling. I've never had this experience. By the way, then we cut to fucking Charlie's decapitated, ant-covered head on the side of the road. And you're like, oh.
Okay, so here's the thing. I saw this movie and I did not, after seeing it, give it one more second's thought. And I think it's because it was so fucking disturbing. Like, I'm really upset right now thinking about this scene.
It's the worst thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Because you know how I feel, from last week, I know you did last summer, you know how I feel about guilt and accidentally killing somebody? Like, how would this kid live with himself? How would you live with yourself if that happened? Then how would you live with yourself if you were in such shock that you accidentally or whatever went home and didn't do anything about it?
That is really the greatest sin of it. And again, we can't blame him because he was totally in shock.
Accident,
and also, I think, we're saying Charlie wasn't able to take care of herself. Really, Peter is not either. These kids are just kind of...
They're not
floating.
Functioning.
They're not taking initiative or caring for themselves. Gabriel Byrne is sort of like ineffectually like, did you sign up for your SAT scores? Yeah. Tony's not really involved except in really aggressive, ineffective ways.
Later we learn that very fucked up things have happened to them.
Yeah.
So
But even though we can excuse it and understand it, the worst sin is taking the body home and leaving it for his parents to find. Yeah. That's the worst thing in the world.
Jeez Louise.
And then so we cut to Tony is, screaming and crying. Really, Tony. She was chewing the scenery throughout this film.
I thought it was so good. I
loved it.
I started crying
when
a
I
little bit.
that, it was real. But it was. I was beyond crying for me because it was just so raw. The way she's screaming, I want to die. And I was like, I can relate. I also would like to die at this moment.
Yeah. So my God, it's so sad when she's like, it hurts too much. Yeah. Like, I just want to die. And I was like, oh my God, this is like too real.
It was way too real.
When we see her at the funeral and she's sobbing.
Yeah. I want to say this right now. I know we've spent a lot of time on this section, but it was very affecting. But somebody was asking me, I was telling a friend about this, and they were like, why do you fucking watch these movies all the time? And I was like, here's the thing though, most of these movies aren't this way because somebody dies and the reaction to it is so quick and so shallow. You're not dealing with the emotional fallout of death in horror movies usually. And this movie did not give you any such respite. It was like, no. Like, you're just going to live in grief. Mm-hmm. We're going to live in it. Yeah.
This whole movie is about grief, really.
Yeah.
The other thing, so moving on from this, though, so we see the funeral. And then things just kind of like, not move on, but we see Annie start to do other things. You know what I mean? And what we don't see is the parents confront Peter or ask Peter what happened. Like, that kind of was distracting to me in a way because I was like, sheesh, how'd that conversation go?
Yeah.
How the fuck did you talk about it? Were you like,
Gabriel Byrne
what
handled
the hell happened?
Byrne handled it. And he probably was just like, what happened here? I mean, he's like, go sign up for your SAT prep. Gabriel Byrne, I felt really bad for.
But also, you like need to put Peter in like, I don't know, like
that boy needs to be in therapy. I was reading
something.
An interview with the director, Ari Aster, I think his name is, about how when he was casting this, he was like, I had to cast a young adult to play a teenager with PTSD, straight up, like, because of course that's what he has. And then later we see him having panic attacks while he's smoking weed. Why would you ever smoke weed again?
Never. Oh, that part was so sad.
And he's like, just hold my hand,
and he's like, my throat's closing.
It's so sad.
God, awful.
Yeah, but I felt bad for Gabriel Byrne because Tony is so all-consuming in her grief. She sucks up all the grief oxygen. Like, she gets to be the one who's so devastated, and Gabriel has to be the one who's sort of holding it together.
It's a really good way to put it.
And his daughter died too, but he's like...
You almost forget that it's his daughter, because...
At one point, I was like, is he their stepdad?
Yeah.
Because he was so unemotional.
But you put it beautifully. There's no room to grieve when someone is grieving that much.
Right.
And I guess the same is true of Peter. He can't really grieve.
Right.
So anyway, then things happen. Annie goes back to the support group. She can't go in. She's about to leave. Ann Dowd, Joan, basically like throws herself in front of her car.
Yeah, we meet Ann Dowd here from Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Love it.
And the leftovers.
But it's weird. She just approaches her. I mean, we know as the audience something must be up because nobody's this nice. She just is like, I've seen you here before. How are you doing? Like, can we check in? And she's like, oh, well, my daughter died and she was 13. And she's like, my son and grandson drowned 4 months ago, and if you ever need somebody to talk about. And she's so nice. She's so sweet. Ann Dowd is the most lovable woman on the planet, even though she plays scary monsters always. But
she really does. She always does.
Yeah, she's really good at like the sweet old lady who eats you.
Yeah.
But so they go to her house. Toni Collette notices that Ann Dowd has a welcome mat that's embroidered in just the way that Tony's mom used to embroider them, which immediately I was like, Toni.
Toni.
That's a red flag,
she
baby.
Knows your mommy.
But they have a talk. Do you want to take us through the tremendously fucked up thing we learned during this talk?
Yeah, so we learned that Annie, Toni Collette, used to sleepwalk, and that one time she was sleepwalking, and it was when Peter and Charlie used to share a bedroom or a bed or whatever, and she woke up in their bedroom, and the children and she were covered in paint thinner, and she was holding a box of matches and was about to strike a match.
She did strike
or
the match.
She woke herself striking the match, and that also woke up Peter, and he was screaming, and she put it out right away, of course, and she could never convince them that she was sleepwalking, and her family would never trust her after that.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. She just casually drops this information.
Yeah, and if I were Joan and I didn't have ulterior motives, I would be like, you're gonna need to walk over that welcome mat out the door.
Excuse me, Child and Youth Services?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, A, this is a crazy thing to just share. B, it was at this point in the movie that I was like, this family's fucked up. Like, this family seems normal, except for the crazy grandma. No.
There's
just
a
layers
reason
of
it's
shit.
called Hereditary.
Hell yes. Third, if you're Gabriel Byrne, I'm sorry, I don't care how much I love my spouse. If I'm Gabriel Byrne, those kids are never sleeping under the same roof as their mother ever again. Ever again. Even if I believe her. Especially if I believe her.
And what do you think that's about? Like, do you think that in some way Toni Collette knew what would happen and so she tried to spare them? Or does she have some evil inside of her?
I don't know. Well, we learn later that she didn't want to be a mom. But maybe she knew what would happen, because she also has said during her first visit to the grief center, she's like, I didn't let my mother see my son when he was a child, but I relented and let her see Charlie, my daughter, and she immediately got her hooks in her. She was so manipulative.
Well, she even says, that's why I let her have Charlie.
Yeah.
Which, like, what a thing to say.
What a crazy thing to say.
I let her have Charlie.
Yeah, so I think she does
also
have
funny
some
that
premonition.
the name is Charlie.
Why?
Because she wanted her to be a boy.
Oh, because she wanted her to be a boy. Yeah. So at this point, Peter's having a hard time. He's hallucinating our girl Charlie throughout the house. He's hearing her, and he thinks he sees her in the corner.
Oh my God. And that moment when he thought he saw her in the corner. Okay, I have had that experience so many times. Have you had that experience?
No, I thought you were going to say the thing about the basketball.
Oh my
her
God.
head drops off and becomes a basketball.
Oh no, that was really scary. But there's this moment where he wakes up, and it's not even the basketball moment. It's just a chair in the corner.
Oh yes, uh-huh.
And he wakes up with a start and like thinks that's. I have had that so many times where you see a shadow and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, get out of my house, Charlie. I feel bad that I said no one could love her now. But she was like, but I think it wasn't a reaction to her. It was like reaction to the movie. It's like, let's just make this child as scary as possible. Also, by the way, I looked her up later because I was like, I need to separate this. And she's a perfectly wonderful, articulate, lovely young lady. Not scary at all.
She's really good in this
She's really,
movie.
and she's like a nerd who loves horror movies. She's just like us. She's
sad.
great in this movie.
She is?
Yeah.
We
she
should
likes
get her on the
scary
cast.
Millie Shapiro.
Millie,
up, please.
we loved Matilda.
And when I say that your character was upsettingly creepy, it's a compliment to your acting.
Yeah, and we are Broadway nerds, so come see us. We'll go see your shows at 54 Below.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
So then,
The fight.
Yes, Annie, Toni Collette, is working on a miniature model version of the accident, which is
so
extremely fucked up. And also one of the, like, as the New York Times would say, alarmingly funny moments is when Gabriel Byrne is like, how do you think Peter would feel if he saw this? And she goes, it's not about him. It's a factual rendering of the accident.
It's a neutral view of the accident.
It's a neutral view of the accident.
Everybody in my theater laughed.
It was so funny.
I was like, thank God, in that moment.
And I honestly think there were parts in the script that were intended to be like, that was very funny.
For sure.
It's a neutral view of the accident. Meanwhile, it's like her daughter's head.
Tiny head with like, she's like painting blood.
But you do get
it.
the sense that she uses these mini models to deal with things, to like view things.
For sure.
From a objective point of view. So Gabriel Byrne gets very pissed about this, of course. And he's like, I made dinner. Come downstairs. So they're all eating dinner, this silent dinner. Peter, sweet Peter, says, this is really good, Dad. And Toni kind of scoffs. And Peter says, is there something you want to say, Mom? And it all kicks off. And she says some things that you can't take back. Yeah. On a recent episode of The Real Housewives of New York, Bethany Frankel said that sometimes when you're fighting, you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube and you can't once you squeeze it out, you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube.
That's actually very insightful of her.
And so sometimes when she's fighting, she's like, no, don't say that. Don't get that much of the toothpaste out of the tube. And this is all the toothpaste is on the table.
It comes out, yeah.
Not
all, because there's a little more toothpaste that we learn later.
For sure, not all.
But yeah, she's like, I know she's your sister. I know you miss her, and I know it was an accident. But she's still dead and she's not coming back, and I need you to take some fucking responsibility for what happened, and nobody takes responsibility for anything in this world or in this family. And she like storms upstairs, which is like very rich coming from you, Toni Collette. You tried to set your children on fire in your sleep and you're just like, it was an accident.
Also, another very funny line. She's like, you're always sitting there with that face on your face.
Yeah, it was good.
Which is like a very funny mom thing.
I love Toni Collette.
I love her, man. She is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And this also weirdly felt like an extension of the United States of Tara.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which is like one of my favorite shows ever. Which I think she also made like miniature art things in that show.
I don't remember. I've only seen a few episodes of that.
Mentally ill.
Yeah.
So they have this massive fight, and then sort of like the next big thing that happens is Toni Collette is she's at the paint store, and she sees Joan.
Yeah,
she
Ann
sees
Dowd
Ann
is
Dowd.
there. What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. And Joan says, Annie, the most amazing thing has happened to me. I went to a seance, and I've learned how to communicate with my deceased grandson.
Uh-huh. And
Toni Collette is amazing in this moment. Her acting is perfect, where she's like skeptical but trying not to be rude.
Right. But, she goes home with sweet Ann Dowd, and they try the seance, and it works like gangbusters. It's great. She has a little chalkboard that she manages to... They put their hands on a glass, and the glass moves.
Very Veronica.
Yeah, very Veronica. They have a chalkboard, and the chalkboard writes, I love you, Grandma, by itself on it.
Which also felt too advanced for a 7-year-old. Can 7-year-olds
I thought
write?
as well. They can write, but not with handwriting that good, no. They can maybe write, like, ABC. They can't... They aren't...
I love you,
yet.
Grandma.
No. But also, it's not real. It's a whole ruse, which we'll get to. Mm-hmm. But Toni, again, another perfect acting moment. She's so emotional and scared, but excited, but just a very complex performance in this scene as she's reacting to what she's seeing. And she's like, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.
She does this amazing thing that I'm not going to be able to describe. Ann Dowd, she has stood up and she's trying to leave, and Ann Dowd is kind of still keeping her there. And she does this thing where she kind of scrunches up her shoulders and just is like, okay, and takes what she wants her to take. Yeah. And then just gets out of there. And it's just perfect acting.
Ann Dowd, before she leaves, is like, just try it. Here are the words that the seance person told me to say, the medium told me to say. You have to have a personal item of your daughter's.
Everyone in your family has to be in the house.
She's so like insistent, and it's such a specific set of rules. It's clearly bullshit, but yes. Toni Collette doesn't.
I mean, and honestly, if I were Toni Collette, I would do it too, because I would want to see my kid again or hear from my kid again.
Absolutely. It's a very good plan in that sense, because she's just playing so much on the grief. So that night, Toni
has a nightmare.
She has a nightmare, which we don't know is a nightmare until the end. But
it starts with ants.
Yeah, it's gross as fuck. I hate ants. I watched Ant-Man this weekend, and it's a very boring, dumb superhero movie. Oh. B, Ant-Man is hanging out with a lot of ants all the time. Like, he uses ants. An army of ants help him. And I was like, oh, I hate this movie so much. It was so gross to me. They were everywhere.
First one, when you said Ant-Man, I thought it was going to be a horror movie where, like, a man becomes an ant.
It's a superhero movie.
But now I know what you're talking about. Man. Well, okay, I'm going to tell you a really gross story. But it's not that gross. But when I was little, we didn't have central air conditioning. Mm-hmm. And so in the summer, I would sleep with my window open. And one night, I woke up and I looked at the foot of my bed, and there was a string of giant black ants walking in from the window across my bed and like down the floor. It was disgusting and awful.
That's
and
horrible.
Exactly what happens in this movie.
Exactly. She follows the fucking ants into Peter's room, and there's ants all over his face.
Just like Charlie's decapitated
like eating
head.
His eyes. And then suddenly she screams, or she doesn't even scream, she makes a horrible face. And he sits up, and the ants aren't there anymore. It was a hallucination.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mom, what are you doing? Can you imagine your mom has already at one point tried to set you on fire in your sleep because she was sleepwalking, and you wake up and she's standing over your bed after you've had this massive fight about how you killed your sister, making this face? Yes. No. So he's like, what are you doing? And she just blurts out, I never wanted to be your mother.
Yeah.
And clamps her hands over her mouth and proceeds to tell him that she tried to have a miscarriage. She didn't feel like a mother, but now she's happy that she has him and she's glad it didn't work, but she really didn't want to have him. And you have to wonder how much of that is a factor of her own family and her fucked up history, and how much of it is just like women often are pressured to be mothers when they don't want to be. But then all of a sudden they're both sopping wet and crying. He's crying. He's a really good crier in this movie.
Yeah, it's such a sad cry.
It's like a little boy's
Little
cry.
boy,
It's a little kid. Because you have to remember, he looks a little bit older because I'm sure he's like 19 or whatever. But in the movie, he's 16.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so they're both sopping wet and we realize it's paint thinner and a match is struck and then Tony wakes up. It was a dream. So then she's like, fuck this, I'm going to do the seance. She does it. It works. We don't see this. We hear about it. She wakes up the entire family.
Because she wakes up really close to Peter's face. She's like, Peter, Peter.
I'm sorry for everything I said. I'm sorry for everything. I'm going to fix it. So she gets him and Gabriel. They go downstairs. She wants to do the seance. Gabriel's like, I don't want to do it. What the fuck is wrong with you? This is stupid. Gabriel's a man of science. And Peter's like, no, I'll do it. It's fine. Let's do it. So they do it and the glass moves.
Also, okay, this was a moment, and it happens again later, that is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine in movies. I just really don't like it. It happens a lot. Actually, this reminded me that it happens a lot in Paranormal Activity, and almost to the point where, like, I don't know if we can watch Paranormal Activity because it drives me so fucking crazy. And it's when, particularly women, because I've never seen it happen with a man to a woman, have to ask someone to do something 15 times. Like, she's like, please do this for me. Please, please, come on, please. You have to do this for me. Please, please. And I was like, I can't take it.
I know.
Either do it or don't. I can't take it.
It's like, it is a little triggering of the nagging that women have to do in relationships.
Also, like, if I ever had to ask someone to do something that many times, I'd do it my fucking self, and then I'd be like, well, I did it myself. I know, but
and also,
I can't stand it.
The extenuating circumstances that he does humor her a lot, and she's a very high maintenance person.
Yes, I can't stand it.
I get it.
Please, please, please.
This actually, in a pretty much pitch perfect performance from Tony, I thought both of those scenes were a little much. Like, her performance went into scenery chewing territory that was like,
it was just
irritating.
Irksome.
Yeah.
So
but
they
end up
do
doing it. It kind of works, but then it won't. She wants it to draw on the Charlie's drawing notebook, sketchbook, and it won't. And Gabriel gets mad, and then something happens, and Tony is possessed by Charlie, and Charlie's voice starts coming out of Tony. She's very scared. She's saying, "Where's mom? Where's mom? Why are you all scaring me? What are you doing?" So it's like, it's not a good seance. It doesn't make you feel like your loved one's spirit is at rest. And Peter gets very upset.
Peter starts crying his little cry, like, please make it stop, because it's Charlie's voice and Tony's voice at the same time.
Yeah, and then Gabriel gives them a hug and they stop it and it's okay.
And he throws a glass of water on Tony
to wake her up.
And that part was funny. She goes, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh God, what happened?"
Yeah, so they've done this. I can't remember exactly what happens after this, except that shit starts to go bad.
Peter freaks out in school. He sees himself, whatever.
He sees a reflection of himself, and Peter, and this is effective, really effective. Peter himself is not smiling, and the reflection smiles a scary smile at him.
Yeah, and he starts seeing this light thing too.
Which Charlie previously had seen.
Yeah, like a flash of light. And so he calls his father in hysterics. In turn, the father calls Tony and is like, I can't believe you've done this. Peter was hysterical, blah, 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 blah.
I have a son to protect.
I have a son to protect.
Basically gives her an ultimatum of, you better shape up.
Yeah. You better shape up.
I wish that we'd had a song break.
Stop doing seances.
She, at this point, smashes all of her miniatures.
She does.
Which is bad because she has like a gallery show she's been working towards.
Yeah, there's so much to this movie because we didn't even need to mention that.
I would argue more than is necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
But then Gabriel comes home and he's like, what the fuck did you do? And she's like, I got tired of looking at it. Which speaks to your point of how she uses these miniatures to sort of look at her life objectively.
Well, then, I don't know. Some things happen, but she feels that she needs to destroy the sketchbook. She sees in the sketchbook, it's flipping pages, and a drawing of Peter with the eyes X'd out is on every page.
Yeah.
And so Tony feels like the spirit is bad. It's coming for her son. So she decides to burn it. She throws it in the fireplace, and as it begins to burn, so does her arm.
Yeah, her sleeve catches on fire.
So she takes it out. She goes to...
But the key thing is when she takes it out, the fire goes out on her arm.
Fire goes out. So they're connected in some way. But she basically...
She goes to see Endowed.
Yeah, things are cranking up at this point.
Yeah.
She goes to see Endowed. Endowed is nowhere to be found, but inside her apartment, we see all these candles lit. We see on the table, basically, the makings of a ritual and a picture of Peter at the center of it.
Yes. We also see Peter at school. He's like sitting alone, all comatose at his table. He looks up, and Dowd is across the street, like far away. And she starts yelling, "I expel you, Peter! Peter, I expel you!" And he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's very scared, obviously. Tony... Oh, here's an important thing that happens. After, she's been to Joan's house and Dowd's house, she starts digging through her mom's shit. She finds a bunch of those embroidered things. She finds a photo album that has pictures of all these creepy old people, including Ann Dowd, doing weird rituals and stuff.
Yes.
There's a picture of the mom, Ellen, in a wedding dress. Not as a young woman, as an old woman, and it says Queen Ellen next to it.
Yes.
There's like a picture of a ritual with a picture of her family in the center of it. My friend that I saw it with, he was like, when you're part of a secret witch coven, make sure that you keep lots of photo albums of it for people to find.
Yeah, right? So make sure you scrapbook these happy memories.
Yeah. She also finds a book, and in the book is a passage highlighted about a demon king called Paimon, who's really a demon from demon mythology, I think. And a part is highlighted that's like, Paimon prefers a young, healthy male host. And she's like, what the fuck? She goes up into the attic at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing up there, but it doesn't really matter.
She makes a decision. And earlier, they've been like, why does the house smell bad?
Oh, they did?
Yeah, he was like, honey, what's that smell? Earlier.
Oh.
When he came home and she had destroyed all her shit.
What's that smell?
Yeah. She opens the stairs to the attic. All these flies come out. She climbs up.
Did you get that at this point that there was going to be a dead body? Yes. I did not.
Yes, because they had reminded us about the grave desecration right before this, when Gabriel Byrne gets an email about it, and we see the grave.
You see that it hasn't just been desecrated; it's been dug up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good. They reminded us. They
There's
helped
a lot of
us
similarities between this and Pet Sematary.
Yeah. I'll take Pet Sematary again over this one.
Dare you never.
Just for ease of watching. So she finds her mother's, what she thinks is her mother's body in the attic. It's all distended and bloated and black, and the head is gone. Meanwhile, at school, Peter's freaking out in his classroom again. And he goes into like a weird trance. His arm is up, and he's all puppety, and he slams his own face into his desk.
Okay, now this part, I was fully like eyes covered.
Me too.
My ears were plugged. Because I was waiting. It's in the trailer. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not watching this shit. And I couldn't remember if he stabbed himself in the eye with a pencil or something.
No, he just bangs his head and then he bangs it again.
Yeah. So I was like,
and then he wakes up screaming, and it reminded me of my night terror.
Oh, did you ever wake up with a broken nose? Because you might be possessed by an ancient demon. So then, Gabriel goes and picks him up.
And then another funny part. Clearly, I liked all the funny parts. So Gabriel Byrne goes to pick up his son. He drives him home. When they get home, Toni Collette is in the driveway, and she's like, and she runs down to meet the car, and she's like, "Thank God you're here." And Gabriel Byrne just keeps driving, and she's like
over it.
She's like, "What?" And like chases after them, and then she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" But anyway, she shows Steve her mother's body, and
Steve is like,
sketchbook.
What happened? He believes that she has been doing this, which she probably has, like in her sleepwalking.
Yep. And he was like, "You've been saying you're going to the movies. This is really what you've been doing. You're sick, Annie." And she, meanwhile, is like, "Please, please, please." This is when the pleases start. She's asking him to burn the sketchbook. She says she can't do it because they're connected in some way. She can't bring herself to do it.
She's too scared because she knows she'll catch on fire and die.
But she is also saying she knows that if she doesn't, Peter will die.
Yeah.
And so she's imploring her husband, and she's begging, "Please throw it in. Please, 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 please." He goes to do it, or it seems like he's going to do it, and then he turns around and he says, "I can no longer indulge you in this. Like, you're sick, Annie." Well, she grabs the book out of his hand, tosses it into the fire, and Gabriel Byrne
lights up like
some drops,
like some dead Christmas tree.
Some dead straw, all straw is dead. Like some dry hay. All hay is dry. Goes,
and it's sad.
It's sad and
really
creepy.
Sad to see him
and
go.
Tony's just standing there like, holy fuck.
Well, she makes a horrible screaming face, and then all of a sudden her face just clicks into a sort of slack-jawed face.
Yep, position / possession.
Well, we understand that she's possessed. By the way, this happens throughout, but especially as the movie goes on. Did you notice the transitions between day and night?
Oh my God, I loved it. It was
shots? It's like a light switch going on or off.
I loved it. I thought it was really cool.
It started to feel very disconnected, and we're sort of losing time in the same way that Tony has been losing time.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, then from here on out, I just thought this was the scariest fucking thing in the world. So Peter wakes up. He is looking around his house. I mean, I think one of the scariest things for me is when a kid can no longer trust his or her parent.
Yeah.
To me, that is one of the scariest horror movie plots.
Yeah.
And because I feel like I've had dreams like that where like when I was a kid, like that my mom was bad or that, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just such a scary thing. So he wakes up, he's going around his house.
Well,
Mom, Dad.
Don't forget, we have to sit on this for a minute because he wakes up and he's sort of disoriented. At this point, everybody in the theater started going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I thought, oh my God, is somebody having a heart attack? You know, like, are we going to have to stop the movie and help somebody? No, they were reacting because, and it took me a minute to see it, Toni Collette is like spider-momming up in the corner.
Yeah.
She's stuck to the wall.
Yeah. Well, he's standing over his father's.
But no, it happens first in his bedroom.
What?
You didn't even see it?
No.
She's doing it in his bedroom. And then she does it again when he finds Gabriel Byrne's charred corpse.
My heart is pounding right now.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yes, dude. The whole theater reacted to it. It was crazy. I didn't see it at first either. I wouldn't have seen it if
I did see something scamper, but I didn't see her there the whole time.
Yeah, she was up there in the shadows.
Oh my God, that's too much.
Spider-Mom.
I need to see this movie again.
Oh God. You be my guest.
So then he's walking through the house and he's like, Mom, Dad, are you here? And he can just tell something's wrong. And also when he goes downstairs, a bunch of shit is destroyed.
Yeah.
Like chairs are turned over. The piano is destroyed. And he goes towards the fireplace and he's looking over this burned corpse. Meanwhile, Toni Collette is spider-momming up in the corner. It's the fucking scariest thing in the world. And he sees that it's his dad's corpse.
Yeah, which is so
just
sad.
Awful.
I love Gabriel Byrne.
It's so sad. And then, oh my God, I'm getting so scared talking about this.
Really?
He turns, so she goes away. She doesn't, I thought she was going to jump down or something, but she doesn't. And he turns around and there's a naked, smiling man standing behind him.
That was scary.
And he fucking runs upstairs. He bolts upstairs. He bolts up the attic, which is, I'm sorry, very much like It Follows. Again, this naked thing.
People are creeped out by nakedness.
Naked and like, Veronica,
especially bodies that we don't normally find appealing sexually.
So you didn't think that guy was sexy? That smiley guy from the funeral. So he runs up the attic.
And Toni is chasing him.
I'm sorry.
It's so funny because I
was so scared remembering it.
It's funny because, look,
I got really scared
I thought this was scary and I was definitely stressed out during this part. But for me, everything after the car accident. I want you to feel
my heart. My heart is pounding right now. Mostly because
I have my hand on Callie's chest.
I literally just got scared right now when you were so like, funny. Toni was chasing him. That shit scared me. I didn't even do an impression. Bad.
Well, the thing is, what I was going to say before is I found this very scary, like, in this effective scary scene. But for me, everything after the car accident scene, I was like, well, what else you got? Honestly. Because that was so upsetting to me. Like, nothing else could upset me more.
Oh, my God, not me. I mean, I swear, during this last 10, 20 minutes, I kept checking my phone being like, I was enjoying it so much. I didn't want it to end, but I was like, how much longer is my heart gonna be racing? Oh my God. Like this?
Oh my God.
Is it the Skittles?
I can't believe you enjoyed it.
I really did.
But anyway, so he runs upstairs.
Oh my God, but I hate this part. And he's
like, Mommy, I'm sorry.
Mommy, stop. Because she is on the reverse side of the attic door, banging her head against the door.
It's very scary. This is in the trailer too. That action.
Extremely scary. And oh my God, we can see behind him that there are candles lit. So we know something's going on up there.
Yep.
And
he finds the grandma corpse, I think.
He finds the grandma corpse. No, he finds where the grandma corpse was. Oh. And there's a picture of him on top of it.
Oh, right.
With the eye scratched out. So he's like, oh, fuck.
He's like, this is a dream. You just have to wake up. It's a dream. It's a dream.
Wake up. He hears and he looks up and his mom, oh my God, I can't, is in there. She has what I think is a piano wire wrapped around her neck and she's going, blood is spurting out of her neck, and he hears something behind him.
She's levitating, BT dubs.
He hears something behind him, turns around. There are 3 smiling naked people, and he just goes, ah, and jumps out a window, which I loved. Jumps through a window.
And I'm like, is he dead? What's happening? We see the light.
Oh, we also, earlier. Before we see the light, we hear the
oh, yes.
And then we hear thud. And you know her head is no longer attached to her body.
I don't think you're able to decapitate yourself with a wire unless you are possessed.
Yeah.
Like physically.
Your body would stop you.
So he's face down in the shrubbery. We see the light, the little light that he'd been seeing in the school enters his body. He stands up and he goes, and we know now that Charlie has possessed his body. He walks past their dead-ass dog. The dog dies. Spoiler alert.
We didn't even mention there was a dog.
There is
who
a dog.
needed a dog?
Nobody needed a dog. He dies, though. We see Tony's headless corpse float out of the attic and up into Charlie's treehouse. Possessed Peter / Charlie goes up into the treehouse. There's all these naked-ass people bowing down. He sees like an effigy situation that's like a scarecrow with Charlie's rotting decapitated head on top of it. His mother's and grandmother's headless bodies are bowing. We hear Ann Dowd moving around. She puts a crown on Charlie Peter's head and she's like, "Welcome, Charlie. Don't be scared."
Also like a really interesting directorial choice. It happens a couple times where you hear someone speaking who you don't see, and they don't even do like an establishing shot of the person speaking. You just know who's speaking.
You have to know who it is. Yeah. But I mean, I had no trouble.
No, I thought it was cool. Yeah.
But she's like, "Charlie, don't worry. The wrongs of the past have been corrected.
Your incorrect female body has been corrected.
And now, I don't know. Now we're good.
Hail Payman.
Hail Payman. So Charlie is Payman and is now Peter.
So Charlie is Payman.
So I think I read about this somewhere. I think what people are saying is that Charlie was possessed by Payman at birth, which may be why she's so odd.
That makes sense.
And then was killed so that her spirit,
her
Payman could go into Peter's
body could be corrected.
However, I don't understand how they engineered Charlie's death. Because they didn't put the nuts there. They didn't,
Well,
unless it's just like spookitude and magic.
There were these words written everywhere. And there was a word written on the pole that decapitated her.
Oh, I didn't see it because I was closing my eyes.
And something with the bird, cutting up the bird's head off. I have to imagine it was orchestrated in some way.
Yeah.
But there had to have been simpler ways. But also decapitation was a running theme. So maybe that's how they had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this gets into the movie's sort of plot is not its strongest point.
Right.
But anyway, so we're in this Rosemary's Baby situation at the end where they're sort of just accepting, our whoever's left, Charlie Peter, is like, all right. And then we zoom out and we see that the scene is a miniature. Roll credits. And that's fucking Hereditary. So there you go. My voice is really going here. So, Callie, what you gonna rate it?
Okay, I give the movie itself 4 stars.
Okay.
I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. It did have a few plot problems. I thought it had interesting pacing. It was kind of slow, but it didn't really bother me. But it wasn't quite a 5-star for me. And I think that was because of plot and pacing.
Yeah.
Scares? Whew, can I give it 6?
I said the same thing.
I give it 5 for sure. Like we said, this is not for beginners. This is like
varsity
level scary movie. This is like one of the scariest movies I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah. I'm also going to give it a 4 stars. My friend that I saw it with didn't like it, but he's very, very well versed in like horror nerdery, and he was talking about how this is derivative of some more obscure like Japanese movies and some H.P. Lovecraft and and I was like, I wish I had the resources to incorporate that into my review, but I don't, so I could just go with my plebeian gut reaction, which is that it's
your gut's not plebeian.
Well, but it's uneducated in terms of horror, the history of it. But yeah, it's really, I read a headline that said, the craft is masterful, the plot leaves a lot to be desired, which I think really sums it up. It's sort of a brilliant tapestry of fucked up shit. The acting, Toni Collette is amazing, but so are Millie Shapiro and Alex Wolff, who plays Peter. And, there's not a false note.
Millie Shapiro?
Millie, we love you.
You're invited on the podcast.
Yeah, you could be a Scream girl, too.
And so can your twin.
Yeah, bring her. She has a twin. They sing together. It's really cute. If you need a palate cleanser after this movie, watch them sing little duets together. But, so yeah, it's a great movie in that sense. I give it 4 stars with the caveat that I will never watch it again.
I kind of thought about going to see it at the movie theaters again. Am I crazy?
Yes. I mean, no, you just have like a higher tolerance for this shit than I do. I've never been more upset by a scene in a movie in my life than I was by the car accident scene. Like, I've never had a more visceral
really
reaction
upsetting.
to it. Yeah. So I'll never see it again, but I appreciated it for what it was. Agree, 5 scream emojis. I would maybe give it, if I could give it 6, I would. I almost think we need like an additional emblem that indicates not just scariness, because, you know, The Strangers is a 5-star scary movie for me, but this is so much more existentially disturbing that I think it needs...
What would it be like?
We'll give it a pigeon head.
Yeah.
We'll give it a pigeon head. Yeah, so I give it 5 scream emojis and 1 pigeon head for fucked upness. I think we should implement an additional
caveat
I like it.
For that. Do you think it should be a pigeon head or should it be a Charlie head?
I guess it could be a Charlie head if you really want that image knocking around in your brain every time we want.
You want that image knocking around in your head.
Oh, God. All right, it's a Charlie head. It's a Charlie head.
God, that's awful.
1 Charlie
but
head.
I feel like that'll be more suited to the future.
Yeah.
If something really earns a Charlie head.
Ant covered rotting Charlie head. Yeah.
Barf.
So that's Hereditary.
And that is why next week we'll be talking about inseams and
tape measures.
And
Absolutely.
thread.
No, if you really want to know what we're going to talk about next week, you should follow us at Scream Girls Pod on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at screamgirlspodcast@gmail.com for all your recommendations.
Yeah, and in the meantime, go give us a pigeon head on iTunes.
Yeah.
Leave us a little review. It would help us a lot. Subscribe so that you can see when we put out new episodes, which is every Thursday.
Yes.
And rate us. 5 stars, please.
5 stars, 1 pigeon head. Because we don't deserve a Charlie head. We're not that fucked up.
No.
Okay. That's all we got. I gotta go watch Bob's Burgers a bunch until I forget this ever existed.
Yeah, you gotta eat a cough drop, and I gotta go watch The Office.
Okay. Bye!
Bye!